Sleep and death are two aspects of human nature and life that people throughout history have tied together in many fashions and forms, from mythologies to philosophies and even terminologies. We find both of these processes infinitely fascinating, so much so that in the world of Kimetsu no Yaiba, these concepts are inherently tied together, and are directly made manifest by the blood demon art of the truly tasteless, tailored, ticket-tampering, train-transforming trickster, Tamio Enmu, the first-ranked Lower Moon Demon. Tamio Enmu is one of Muzen's 12 moon demons, being the first ranked of the lower moons. His role in the series was to be the initial antagonist of the Infinity Train arc, and in this role as an antagonist, Enmu leaves a particularly cruel and twisted impression on the readers, being one of the least redeemable demons in the whole series. This is because Enmu seems to be genuinely delighted in the idea of causing unnecessary misery as a concept, likely stemming from some prior sadomasochistic desires as a human. Along with this, he's also strictly loyal to Muzen, and doesn't care about not only his life, but the life of those around him, viewing everyone besides Muzen as disposable. Though before we discuss that any deeper, let's first understand the meaning behind his name and design. Tamio Enmu is a name that when you analyze it, you begin to see how simple it is, but also how it fits into his role in the story of Kimetsu no Yaiba. Starting first with his name, Tamio, which he gets attributed to him in the high school AU created by Gotoge-sensei, which was made to parallel the main universe, and essentially means a male or a boy, though it is harmonious with the term for beauty of life or beauty of living, which works very well when you combine it together with his other name, Enmu, which translates essentially to nightmare and dreams, which basically makes his name a man of nightmare and dreams, or the beauty of life in nightmares and dreams. And this name not only reflects Enmu's major influence, but also his main ability, that being his blood demon art. A blood demon art is essentially a supernatural-like ability that a demon can create and activate through the usage of their blood. This effect can vary from demon to demon, along with how it's used. In the case of Enmu specifically, his blood demon art is forced unconsciousness hypnosis, which is essentially sleep and dream-based manipulation, which can also take on many forms, starting first with Enmu's more stealthy approach, this being his trigger tickets, that have their ink mixed together with Enmu's own blood, so that anyone who comes in contact with them will have their consciousness forcibly put to sleep once the ticket is clipped. From here, Enmu's targets will end up falling into a deep sleep-like state in which the world around them is rendered in a circular-like area that moves with the person, kind of like a 3D rendering technique used in games called frustum calling, or rendering fully what is being seen by the viewer. This tends to be done to reduce the processing power needed to make an environment look good, but in Enmu's case, it's done to distract his targets while they move throughout the unconscious world. Now, the dream in which a person ends up in is also up to Enmu's design, as he offers either good or bad dreams depending on who he's targeting. In the specific case of demon slayers, he tends to try to distract them with calming, happy dreams so they don't feel the murderous intent that comes next in his plan. As not only can Enmu create these dreams, but he can also connect to the dream world as well, personally. But due to the dangers of entering one's dream, as coming in contact with someone's subconscious can affect your own, he is opposed to it. Instead, he uses disposable minions to attack his targets through something called a connecting rope, which is a rope made from Enmu's body that allows a person to enter another's dream. Though, if severed with a Nichiran blade, the rope will essentially trap the intruder inside the mind of the dreamer. Though, while still connected, the invader can move throughout the dream world as if it was normal. But along with this, they can exit the render distance of the dream as well, reaching the person's subconscious by using a stitching owl created from Enmu's own bones, which is likely the reason why they can bring that weapon into the dream world. From there, they're told to attack the spiritual core of the person, which is a fragile ball that is glass-like in nature and shatters rather easily, and when broken will essentially make the dreamer go brain dead, though some subconsciouses have defense mechanisms. Created from someone's strong will or massive ego, these defense mechanisms will defend the spiritual core with deadly force, making the people who have them quite difficult to deal with, and is in part why I believe Enmu doesn't like to go and do his dirty work himself. Along with this, if the invader's body is attacked at all in the real world, the effects will be transferred to their spiritual form as well, as seen when Rengoku's body instinctually began to choke the woman about to kill him, causing her to begin to suffocate in the dream world. But this also means that you can't force someone awake from the outside either, as effects on the dreamer's body only seem to transfer to effects in the dream world itself, as seen with Nezuko's flames reaching Tanjiro in the dream world, but not waking him up. So, even if the attackers are stopped, Enmu's ability is not lifted because it's tied to the ticket, such the only way to wake yourself is to destroy the ticket itself, which is impossible for someone to do while they're still asleep. But there is one method to escaping the dream yourself from within it, and this is to take your own life in your dream, which sounds easy on paper but is still extremely mentally taxing. But once awake, the ticket no longer holds effect over its owner. But with that in mind, that was only Enmu's cautious approach, as his forced unconsciousness hypnosis is an ability that he can use in a number of different ways, with us being able to see two specific different methods throughout the entirety of the fight, which harken to different methods of hypnosis as well. Starting first with Whispers of Forced Unconsciousness Hypnosis. This is an ability where mouths grow from Enmu's body and echo out a hypnotic command to all those that can hear it that forces them to fall unconscious. And in this dreamlike state, just like before, Enmu can control what the dreamer sees, but the dreamer can also still take their own lives to escape it. Though what makes this form of his ability usable in combat is that since it's sound, he can replicate it more effectively so that he can reinduce the sleep-like state whenever he needs to, usually overwhelming the normal person, though those with hardened will seemingly can break free of the spell the instant they are put under it. Now, whispers seem to be in part based on the general idea around hypnotic suggestions, where commands can be placed inside sounds or images to compel a person to do as they are asked. Along with this, originally it was believed that monotone-like sounds could be used to induce this hypnotic state in which you could place the suggestion, hence why Enmu's hands issue out a command when they are activated. Along with this, his usage of sounds and orchestration of dreams, I feel, plays into him having the design of what looks like a musical conductor, as not only does it work as a pun for his involvement on a train, as trains also have conductors, but his theatrical movements fit that of an orchestra's conductor as well. And speaking of Enmu's visual design, there's actually a major aspect of both this attack and his second attack, Eye of Forced Unconsciousness, Sleep, in which Enmu creates dozens of eyes from his flesh, which all have the kanji for sleep engraved upon their irises, opposed to his normal demon eyes, which have the kanji for 1 and lower rank in them. Now, if a person was to look directly into these created eyes, they would be compelled to pass out instantly, forcing them into the same dream world as I've mentioned previously. Though the caveat here is that this ability of Enmu's doesn't know when someone is looking at them, so if someone was to block their vision or eyes in some way, the effect of it would be rather useless. Along with this, he can choose whether or not it activates. This allows him to play mind games with a person, causing them to constantly wonder if they are or are not in a dream. This idea likely comes from a more modern idea of hypnosis, more commonly understood as subliminal messaging, which is very visual and focus-based, as Sigmund Freud discusses that focusing an audience's attention on something and implanting a hypnotic suggestion into them through the work itself is the most effective form of hypnosis, but it's also the most terrifying, which is why Enmu's ability has the kanji for sleep engraved into the eyes, as when looking at them, you are compelled to sleep. For similar reasons, Enmu's body is covered in this sleep-like kanji as well, as seen on his hands when he uses whispers. Now, Enmu's blood demon art has drawn from a lot of places, but its biggest one is its influence from humanity's tie between dreams and death, and that comes from ancient times, one of the major sources being the ancient Greek god brothers, Hypnos and Thanatos, the gods of sleep and death respectively. Hypnos also being the origin of the word hypnosis, which of course is used in Enmu's attacks, seems like this was partially intentional. Along with this, Hypnos had 3 sons who all controlled dreams, nightmares, and fantasies, which are all things that Enmu has mastery over as well. And on top of the connection to the Greek gods, we also have his rope and owl, with the rope seemingly acting similar to the red string of fate of Asian mythos, which mystically connects the wearer to someone else. And the owl is a tool used for sewing, which being made by Enmu's body likely plays into the concept of him being a dream weaver. And that's everything we know about his blood demon art, as before he can reach his full potential, Enmu would find himself killed by the collective efforts of Tanjiro, Inosuke, and of course Rengoku. And in his dying moments, we get a glimpse into his mentality and see how terrible of a creature he really was. As compared to demons both before and after, Enmu's desires were terribly selfish. He essentially longed for power as a demon so that he could act out his own twisted, sadomasochistic desires, because Enmu takes great pleasure in both receiving and dealing pain. And looking at his school AU counterpart, this pleasure seems to be sexual in nature. Enmu often describes himself as feeling great pleasure from trapping someone in a horrible nightmare after showing them a pleasant dream, especially when he gets to see their face twisted in agony while it's happening. He also appears to have no allegiances to anyone but Muzan, being delighted from the death of his fellow lower moons and seemingly holding nothing nothing but contempt for the impossible standards of the upper moon demons. On top of this, he also viewed humans as nothing more than disposable playthings or food, not telling them fully how his ability works when he employed the terminally ill to act as his tools. Oh yeah, that part. Yes, the people working for Enmu are terminally ill in some capacity. Enmu basically promised these people peaceful deaths in their sleep, opposed to dying as they were, as their payment, which is why they are so determined to act out his wishes. This also runs true for the conductor and ticket checker. Assumingly, all the staff aboard that train was under Enmu's employment, so essentially the train was part of Enmu's ability as well, right down to him fusing with it. But with that in mind, Enmu was basically designed to be a jobber for his arc, building him up as stronger than the previous antagonist by 4 ranks and full of Muzen's blood. He is a demon equivalent to wrestling's Intercontinental Champion, which is why he was defeated before he could actually accomplish anything, thanks to the combined efforts of the Pillar and the new recruits. And beyond making the Slayers look strong, it also built up the actual surprise of the Infinity Train arc, that being Akaza, who shows off his sheer overwhelming power in comparison when he goes one-on-one with Rengoku. Along with this, Enmu shows the difference between an upper and lower moon demon when it comes to their own mentality, as Enmu's reliance on planning and the usage of humans as tools to even stand a chance against his opponents showed the difference in their raw talent, as Akaza could demolish multiple high-level demon slayers on his own. This reliance on ads also rang true for earlier lower moon demons as well, like Rui, who had his family of minions to assist in his efforts, while none of the upper moon demons have underlings of that nature and tend to rely on building themselves up stronger and stronger, where the lower moon demons tend to use sneaky tactics like this. To put it simply, Enmu was essentially a measuring stick designed to show the difference between the demons we've seen so far and the ones to come. As he describes it himself, he is a pathetic nightmare compared to the upper moon demons. And with that all said and done, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to help me and my channel grow in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to avoid nightmares and see nothing but dreams in your future, I recommend getting yourself a copy of Shimonetta, The Boring World Where the Concept of Dirty Jokes Doesn't Exist at buyshimonetta.com.